Chairwoman, we are now live and you have the floor.
Ms. Huggins, you're on mute.
Okay. Thank you. I'll start again. Good evening to all and welcome to the Pitt County Board of Commissioner meeting, March meeting. I welcome you, and at this time I call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk.
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Present.
Vice Chairman Fitzpatrick.
Here.
Commissioner Albright.
Here.
Commissioner Colson.
Here.
Commissioner McLaughlin.
Here.
Commissioner Nunnally.
Here.
Commissioner Ward.
Here.
Commissioner White.
Here.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Here.
Everyone is present.
Thank you. We'll now have invocation. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We ask for your blessings for all the people of this nation, the Pitt County, as well. We pray for peace and love. And we ask that what we do here today, that it will be pleasing in your sight for the people of Pitt County. These and all blessing we ask in your son, Jesus' name, say amen. We'll now have the pledge by Commissioner Colson.
Although, if you can face the flag, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. We'll now have the approval of the agenda.
So move, Madam Chair.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second by Commissioner McLaughlin and Commissioner Ward. Madam Clerk?
Yes. Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunnally.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. At this time, we will have the public address to the board.
Public hearing.
Public address.
Public address.
Okay. Oh, I got you. I'm sorry. I was jumping ahead.
Okay. Public address. And then there's a presentation from, do we have anybody?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
We have
Signed
one
up.
person signed up.
Yeah.
By the name of Matthias Teixeira. And if I can ask the county attorney to read our public addresses statement before we have the public address.
Yes, I'd be glad to. As we say each meeting, for public addresses to the board, Pitt County welcomes all comments on matters of public concern. Before you begin speaking, please state your name and address, and then you will have 3 minutes to make your remarks. I'll keep your time and let you know when your time has concluded. At that time, please wrap up your remarks and end. Note that it is the policy of the board to listen during public comments and not to engage in discussion or respond at that time.
Okay. Mr. Manager, who did you call
Yes.
first?
Matthias, if we can put him up, our PIO office will get him online.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Dylan Matias Shrunko, 4161 Brook Creek Lane, Greenville, North Carolina, 27858. May I start now in my 3 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Dear Honorable County Commissioners, my name is Matthias Shrunko, and I am the Chief of Eastern North Carolina Rescue Squad. I come before you today to formally present our organization to the decision makers of Pitt County, as well as to let you all know some of the issues that have been occurring with Pitt County Emergency Management that have prevented our team from being allowed to serve our local Eastern North Carolina community. Who we are. Eastern North Carolina Rescue Squad is a fully functional and professional 501c3 state incorporated and fully volunteer first responder staff life-saving organization that specializes in search and rescue and community enrichment resources. Our nonprofit was established in April 2020 when a group of local first responders like myself realized the dire need to form and directly provide additional certified and trained first responders to aid in the finding of missing persons. Today, through motivation and hard work, our organization is made up of 20 volunteer members who work as day job, career firefighters, EMTs, paramedics, and other general community members. Each functional member of our team currently holds specialized certifications and training with regards to search and rescue. We are a legitimate agency which maintains our own fully insured, certified, and operational rescue equipment, emergency vehicles, off-road vehicles, a boat, drone, search and find canines, and a main headquarters located off Arlington Boulevard in Greenville. Our team offers all of these services for free and asks for nothing in return. Our volunteers dedicate their free time to ensuring our team is fully staffed 24/7. They do all this for no pay nor any personal gain other than to better our community. Our team's issues over the last 5 months, our team has been prevented from not only aiding Pitt County, but also any other jurisdiction within Eastern North Carolina. In our opinion, exclusively due to Pitt County Emergency Management Director Randy Gentry. I have had multiple meetings with Director Gentry, provided in-depth information about our organization, provided certifications, and all other required items. I've been told that our team is too professional for the region. Our team got organized too quickly. We are challenging the status quo, and it has been insinuated that because most of my team nor I are originally from Pitt County, that somehow this means we can't help ENC. Additionally, in my most recent meeting, I was told by Manager Elliott and Director Gentry that I might as well set up a satellite office somewhere else, or basically go somewhere else. This is wrong. Why tell good-hearted people and legitimate organizations to go away? I don't understand why our team is being treated this way. We gain nothing other than being able to help save a life. My team and I work on the front lines. We see it. Our services are needed. Please take the time to review the emails that I've sent you. Imagine if one of your family members went missing. Wouldn't you want every possible trained provider in your area to help bring them home? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have another one?
No, ma'am, that's all we have signed up.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll close the public address time, and we will move to the presentation.
Yes, ma'am. So your presentation tonight, you have Rich Zeck, who's the Director of the Pitt County Council on Aging. He would like to address the board regarding their building expansion campaign and a challenge grant that is being issued to the Council on Aging, of which hopefully the county can provide some assistance. So Mr. Zeck.
All right, I'm just, I don't know if my video was stopped, so start your video. All right. All right, there we are. Good evening, everybody. Chairwoman and commissioners and ladies and gentlemen, other than. Thank you for taking this time this evening to hear an update on the Council on Aging. Many of you do know me, but there are some people who don't know me yet. So I want to make you a little more familiar with what the Council on Aging is, because for many people, we're still kind of a little bit of a mystery. So the Council on Aging is an affiliate agency since 1975 that has provided a wide range of services to our seniors across Pitt County. And we used to be right where, well, where you guys are today, but not today because you're on Zoom, but we used to be located down at the same facility in the old hospital for many, many years, and moved out to County Home Road roughly about 15 years ago. Most people will know us as the agency that provides Meals on Wheels, home delivered meals. And currently we deliver about 350 meals a day to homebound seniors all across Pitt County, Monday through Friday. We provide Medicare counseling. Last year, we returned $1.4 million back into the pockets of seniors right here in Pitt County. We provide incontinence supplies, falls prevention and home safety services. We provide a wide range of resources, information and referrals for anything that may be aging related. We also operate 5 senior centers across Pitt County, Ayden, Bethel, Fountain, Farmville, Greenville, and possibly, as you may have read in the newspaper, maybe West Greenville. So our senior centers, as well as the Council on Aging, has been open every single day of the pandemic since last March. We never closed. We never missed one meal to any of our seniors. Our senior centers, however, were closed for a couple of months, and we started reopening all of our senior centers back in July and August. So all of our senior centers are open. And as you can imagine, you know, we deal with a very vulnerable population, the senior population. And for as many seniors as we have seen, we had our first positive case of COVID last January. So we have followed protocols strictly from the health department, from the CDC, and have done a great job of returning the mental health and emotional well-being of our seniors right here in Pitt County to levels that have really devastated many of our seniors. So that's a little bit of an update on who we are and what we currently provide to the community. And so I wanted to share a little bit about the main reason I'm here tonight is about the expansion of the county home facility. When the county home facility was built, which was by the generosity of the commissioners at the time, the land was donated by the commissioners and by Pitt County to the current site that we are located on, which is next to the Alice Keene facility. And one of the reasons that we are in the situation that we are is when the building was built 15 years ago, there was a phase 2 and a phase 3 expansion already in the plans. They had already known at the time that the current facility would not keep pace with the demand of the growing seniors in our community. And the reality is the baby boomer generation, which I think other than Mr. McLaughlin and I, we're probably the only baby boomers here, is an exploding population right now. And you know, when you look at age 65 and older, there's 10,000 people a day that are turning 65 and older, and that's one senior every 8 seconds. So the picture before you right now is the proposal of what we're looking to expand, the 7,000 square foot addition in the back, where the black this is all the new facility here. Here's the Alice Keene facility on the right. And really what this is going to do is, if you can see this canopy right here, currently today, the seniors who enter the building come in through the front door, and many of them are on walkers, they're on canes. We have several blind individuals. They have to walk all the way to the back of the building here to be able to get to the senior center activities. So the new facility with the canopy walks the seniors right into the congregate meal site. And that's the primary job. You know, people will ask, what is it that we do? And our primary role is to feed seniors who are not eligible for a home delivered meal. So this new expansion of the senior facility will have an enlarged area for seniors to eat in and 2 additional classrooms. One of the things that I am most proud about the Council on Aging is, as a nonprofit, Pitt County has always supported us and matched our block grant with Mideast Area Agency. And so when we came upon this expansion program that had been in the works for 10 years, it got to the point where services were being delayed, activities at the facility were 2 to 3 months to get a room. So when we started this activity, we started it before COVID. And then we were going to make a formal announcement last April, the month after COVID. And obviously the pandemic hit, everything got put on hold. We had several large individuals that had come to us that said, you know, now is the best time to do it. When COVID is over, we're still going to have seniors aging. The baby boomers are still going to boom. There's still going to be a huge demand. In fact, some statistics show that by the year 2028, which is only 7 years away, North Carolina may be the third or fourth largest state in the United States for age 65 and older, behind Florida, Texas, Arizona, and North Carolina is a great location. And Pitt County, I feel, is also a fabulous place for our seniors to come and live. So when we had made the formal announcement the first week of October, we had $900,000 of our $1.5 million expansion project already in the bank. And that's because of the individuals who believe and see firsthand what we do in the community, what we have done and what we're going to do. So that's fairly significant during a pandemic for individuals like this to step up. Now, when we made the announcement in October, we have since raised another $400,000. And that, again, that is just over the last 4.5 months. And most of these donations have been by individuals, smaller groups, and several banks in town. And we have had an anonymous donor step up with a $300,000 challenge dollar for dollar grant. And they have already matched. By the time they gave us that grant award, we've already matched 200,000 of it, and we've received $200,000 from them. We have another $100,000 to go on that particular challenge grant. And so I'm coming to the commissioners today as an affiliate agency to be a part of continuing to support, like back in the day, the old hospital did and Pitt County did 15 years ago when we moved out here, to continue this expansion for our seniors and for the activities that are going to go on in the community. So I would open it up to anyone that might have any questions or comments, but I wanted to again share with you part of our vision. And I know James is up next, and I certainly don't want to take any of his time away, but I would open up to any questions that anyone may have.
Well, Mrs. X, we certainly want to thank you, and we appreciate the services that the Council on Aging offer to our citizens. We really do appreciate that, especially that you remain open during the pandemic. And that was really, really good that you were able to do that.
Chairwoman, if I might just add real quickly, you know, I think sometimes during crises like our pandemic, there's a lot of focus on a lot of different things like the schools right now and children. But for many of our seniors, you know, I've been doing this for quite a while, and many people that I work with have been doing it longer, but the mental crisis, the emotional crisis, the increased hunger because people are so fearful living in their homes, the caregiving burden, and many agencies that we partner with had been shut down for the first 6 months of the pandemic. So it put a lot of stress on the limited staff we have, but seeing the seniors come back has been incredibly rewarding because, again, you have to imagine, as I've said this many times, and maybe for younger people, it's a little hard to imagine, but imagine 83% of everyone who has died from COVID is over 65. And it's on the news day in and day out, and it's on the TV, and all they have is the TV, and they're hearing that they're next. Yeah. So it's been very challenging. So, you know, like I said, our senior centers are open. People coming back has really reinvigorated and given them hope during this very challenging time for our seniors.
Okay. Well, again, thank you. I believe I see a hand from Commissioner Albright.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much for your presentation. and for all your good work. I think that it's a testament to that good work that you're getting such good response from people in this fundraising campaign. Just a couple of questions about your project. I wonder if the construction of the new building, and especially that nice lunch food facility, if that's going to have any impact on your outlying centers.
It absolutely will not. And part of it is many of the foundations and grants that we receive are very specific. We have a Meals on Wheels demand in our community, but their funding will go for a brick and mortar capital campaign and not to feed someone. So part of our fiscally conservative way that we run our budget is that it is strictly for brick and mortar versus anything else. And so again, part of a lot of these corporations and banks, it's really more about the image of being supportive of a community versus maybe donating to Meals on Wheels. So at this time, every single penny, in fact, our revenue for individual donations for Meals on Wheels ending 12/31 was up 6% for 2020. So even in the midst of a pandemic, people have given towards helping to feed people.
How about the congregate meals? The reason for my questions, there's some concern in Fountain that the center is kind of on the ropes here. And I think there's some concern that the number of congregate meals is not sufficient. And I'm trying to see what's going on with that.
Sure. Part of the congregate that we operate these 4 sites off site, and part of it is the national standards for a congregate meal site is anywhere from 10 to 12 people and need to be fed. So what we absorb as a cost for a congregate meal site is the insurance and cost of a site manager, which is roughly about $15,000 a year. And when only 3 or 4 people are eating, that cost, where I know that Fountain has many more people who need to be fed, it's kind of a balance of being able to keep a senior center open if you're not feeding people, because 90% of all of our funding comes primarily to feed people.
Sure. So is there a discussion about the quality of the food that you're offering in the congregate center?
It's always open for discussion. We have tons of surveys that go through the site manager's feedback, because through Aramark, which is our funder, which is our feeder, we have those. They have input opportunities. We get so many comments. And again, when you're feeding 352 people, sometimes it's very challenging with the diet. And again, there are some people who it's the only thing they get, and they're probably less particular than others. So that is a challenge of.
I guess that to be more directly, have you thought about improving the quality? I mean, I'm talking about people who are hungry and are not happy with what they're being served. And then they're being told, well, if you don't go and eat this, then we're going to close the center down. And it puts a lot of stress on people that use the center for other things. And they would rather eat a bologna sandwich sometimes than eat what the food is being prepared there. So, they feel like they need to go and order the food, even if they don't want to eat it. And that's a concern. And when I've heard that addressed by people from council, they didn't seem to hear the question about quality of food. The council seemed to hear that it was more a question of some people don't like fish, and some people, they have certain dietary preferences, but it did not seem to be heard that there was a great concern about the quality. And I understand Aramark. I know that if you up the value of the meal a little, if you pay a little more, you get a better quality meal. And that's why and I apologize, but that's why the continued questioning about the impact if you're going to upgrade the meals at the center. I have another question about that center too, but I wanted to finish up with the meals and to just make certain that there are people that are very definitely not happy with the quality of the food that's being served, and they are not going to the centers for that. The other issue in Fountain is the council's inability to serve people from across a county line. And there was a time when that was resolved, but now we have people who live a mile away from Fountain who are not allowed to eat with them. That seems, that should be a negotiable item for communities that are in a corner of a county. We're really in 4 counties out here. And that seems kind of, to have friends that come to your center and say, well, because you live across the line, you can't eat with us. You have to go now to Wilson or somewhere to get your food. Seems a little harsh to me.
Sure, and I would agree with that. Unfortunately, our funding is for Pitt County residents. That comes through Mideast, through the area agency, because each county has their own funding.
But
So
Mideast, I'm sorry, Mideast ought to be able to recognize. Mideast is in other counties too. That ought to be negotiable, and Mideast ought to be able to understand that. Pitt County is not an isolated county in Mideast. I don't mean to delay there. I'm really delighted with your building. I want my fellow commissioners to be delighted with it too. And I want all of us to be thinking about how we're going to get senior citizens from out in the county to these nice facilities that, again, we need public transportation. We need to figure out a way to get people that are not, that do not have access to these wonderful facilities. You got a great thing going for you. And again, thank you very much. And I'm sorry for the extended questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Albright. Commissioner Nunley?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Zeck, for your presentation, and thank you and your council for everything that it does for the aging population of Pitt County. And I'm really excited to see, as I'm a relative newcomer on the commission, but I'm really excited to see and learn about the history of this council and the history of this commission. Really recognizing the real worth and value of investing in our aging population. I think if you were to a value community, you want to look at, the investments that they make in their young people, but you also want to look at the investments that they make in their people that are aging. And I'm very proud to be in a county that's taking it seriously. And so just wanted to thank you for your efforts on that front. And also, I think this is something that thought more and more about as we're looking at other projects on that campus, how valuable, not only is this for the folks that are currently living here, but how valuable it is to really position Greenville and Pitt County as a place that's a great place to retire. Everything you're doing helps put us in that position. And it really is a great place to retire. We've got great health care, and we've got great things going on with the council. But the more that we do on it, the more we burnish it, it really sets us off from other areas of the state. So I'm really excited about the prospects and the vision that I'm seeing both from your group and with Alice Keene. And so I thank you so much for your presentation today, and hopefully we can get behind it and get this thing built.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner McLaughlin.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to commend Rich Zeck for his fine presentation. I can attest that this agency is doing a great job for the community. And Rich, I just read in the newspaper that you're possibly looking at an expansion at the Lucille Gorham Center here in West Greenville, which I think that's a good move in terms of reaching some of the underserved community, especially the Blacks that can't get over to the Alice Keene location. So you're doing some good. I can attest with the work that you're doing, not only with the underserved community, the Hispanics, you're working closely with them as well. So I say to you, keep up the good work, and I think what you're doing is great for this community.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Mr. Manager, is it at this time that we would have a motion to what kind of assistance we're going to give to this expansion?
Yes, ma'am, if the board would find that to be your pleasure. And they had like you said, they had a $300,000 challenge grant. There's $100,000 left with the county's strong fund balance position. And they are like he explained, and I explained in the abstract, they are an affiliate agency, just like the library is. So is Council on Aging. If they did not exist, more than likely we would be operating them as a Department of County Government, and they'd be our employees in our program. I would recommend, with the strong fund balance position, to match his $100,000 with $100,000.
Well, you've heard the manager's recommendation. I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair,
Mr. McGawhorn,
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the recommendation from the manager.
Madam Chair, I second that motion.
okay, it's been moved in second by Commissioner McGawhorn and Commissioner Ward. We're ready for the question. Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Vice Chair Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner McLawhorn,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
everyone.
You're welcome, quite welcome. Now we will move to the public hearing, and the public hearing is going to be on the NC 43 South Land Use Plan. We'll hear from James Rhodes first, I believe. Is that right, Mr. Manager?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Rhodes will give a brief overview of the land use plan prior to the public hearing.
Yes.
Again, Madam Chair, good to be with you tonight. Members of the board, Kyle and Carla, I just want to make sure you're able to see my screen.
Yes, we are able to see.
Okay, thank you. Again, planning staff's very pleased to be with you tonight. We've been working on this project for just over a year now, and we're very pleased with how it's progressed. We've had a lot of good input, and we've been trying to keep you up to date on some of the things that we've run across through this planning process. So tonight, we're glad to share it with you, hold a public hearing afterwards, and hopefully receive additional public comments. So just as a reminder and to acknowledge our partners, certainly Pitt County's been the lead agency. The city of Greenville's been involved, the Greenville Urban Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, as well as the Department of Transportation. And each one of those groups has had an active part in developing this plan. We did have planning consultants from Stewart. They were our primary consultant, along with a transportation planning group, Kittleson and Associates, that also assisted in plan development. So a number of things to go through tonight. First up, why did we even start this process? Well, most of the commissioners recognize we've been dealing with a number of rezonings along the corridor over the last few years. And for planning staff, you know, we felt like our existing land use plan didn't adequately address some of the issues we were seeing along NC 43, especially south of Cox Crossing, where we were getting some non-residential uses that were being proposed. So with that, we knew that there was going to be a widening project. That project, of course, if you're looking at the screen, was going to start just south of Fire Tower Road and run just past Hollywood Crossroads, close to where D.H. Conley is located. So that was another driving force. Sewer availability is certainly a big issue. You'll hear about more of that in just a minute. Growth pressures, schools are at capacity in and around that area right now. And certainly we see it's almost as if this area is a victim of its own success. The more popular it becomes, the more popular it becomes to live in that area. So traffic congestion, some of the recent annexations, and many of the commissioners are already aware of that. And we'll show a map about that in just a minute. And then just coordinating land use with some of these infrastructure investments. And these truly are investments, especially when we're talking about road improvements and or sewer line improvements. So those of you that are familiar with this area realize it is has a lot of differences when you start from just around the Bells Fork area where Fire Tower Road and Charles Boulevard intersect, and head southward, you're getting progressively more rural. And this pretty much is a good idea of what you see as you traverse that 10-mile area or so from Bells Fork down to Chicago. So our project schedule, just to look at some of the details in developing this plan, again, kicked off about a year ago. We actually held our first meeting, stakeholders meeting and working group meeting right before the pandemic hit. And so we were able to get one face-to-face meeting and then 3 other working group meetings virtually. But we also, during that time, held 2 public surveys, 2 public meetings, and I'd say we had a fair amount of participation in that. Just an idea of all the different public engagement opportunities, stakeholder interviews. We actually brought some people in that we felt like, or they didn't feel comfortable in the virtual environment. So we met one-on-one or in small groups. We also, our surveys, and I'll get to some of those details in a minute, one in the spring, one in the summer of last year, public information meetings, and certainly we've been providing information to you throughout this process. Our planning board had a public hearing just last month. So through the surveys, not surprisingly, we kept hearing the same echoes. What's important about this area? So the first survey really showed us that people had a keen interest in the rural character, some of the natural resources there, just like the area in general, as far as being able to live close to Greenville. Also, the schools there were certainly a big issue. So you can see some of the quotes that we received at the bottom of the screen. On our second one, we honed in a little bit more closely, and we wanted feedback on what's the vision of this area for the next 10, 20 years. And people were talking, not surprisingly, traffic, which is already somewhat a concern. We know if those improvements don't go in fairly soon, it's only going to get worse in that area. More businesses were listed, more housing. And on the flip side of that, staying rural, controlled growth, those types of things in the more southern portion of the land use planning area. So let's look at some of the existing details that we went through as we developed the plan. Certainly traffic and looking at congestion. There are, as I've mentioned already, some traffic improvements that are planned. Certainly the 4-laning of NC 43 on the northern part. There's also a proposed turn lane on Edwards Farm Road and a roundabout at Worthington and County Home Road. So close by, and we know some of these particular traffic areas are only seeing more and more use, especially given the schools in this area. Bike and ped facilities pretty much are non-existent, but we do have some recreation areas just to the west of this corridor. We really feel like are vital places where we could connect to and ensure that we're getting the recreational opportunities that we would like to see. Agricultural resources, again, further south and especially along the Mills Road area, anywhere that you see on this map that have a pink color, those are prime farmland areas. And certainly agriculture is still very huge here in Pitt County. We also, those areas that kind of have this olive color, those are areas that are already participating. Those landowners are participating in our voluntary agricultural districts. And so they have signage and they have other ways of communicating that to the people that live around it, say that, hey, you might see some things, smell some things. There are certain activities that might go on that are of an agricultural nature. And certainly with the land use planning process, we always look at existing land uses. And if you go from top to bottom on this corridor, you'll see a wide range of everything from institutional to residential to commercial. We've got it, just about all of it in this area. So that's a major, when you're looking at rezonings, we often show what is on the adjacent properties. Here's the big map, and this map was just made available within the last couple of months. but this is going to be a driving force as far as development in this area. Just to orient you again, since this is at a different scale, this is the Hollywood Crossroads right here. D.H. Conley sits right at this area, Mills Road, and this is Hope Middle School. If you look, a major portion of this area, this is Cox Crossing here, already a subdivision that's provided sewer here. This area is set to be served by sanitary sewer. In fact, Greenville Utilities is currently in the process of acquiring easements for this blue line right here that will actually serve this northeastern quadrant of Hollywood Crossroads. That's going to happen. That's in the process right now. These other areas are two smaller sewer sheds that are very capable of being put in place in the near future. And one of those areas, the blue area, you'll see the hatch here. Those large tracts have already been annexed into the city of Greenville. So when development is initiated, more than likely that will be on sanitary sewer service. So this map really helped us develop our land use plan. This takes a lot of the information I just went through, put it on one map, and it shows you the suitability, the development suitability for the area. Not surprising, up around Bells Fork, very dark. The darker areas more prone to be developed in suburban or urban style nature. So here at Bells Fork, very dark. Here around Hollywood Crossroads, also another node, and really extends down Mills Road down to Cox Crossing. And you'll see another smaller bubble here at Chicod at the very end. So this is somewhat the pattern that we anticipate will be in place in the next 5, 10, 15 years. So with that, these are our major themes. Rural character is still a value there. Non-residential uses scattered along the corridor. Sewer access is driving the development pressure in the area. So we are trying to reflect that in some of our goals and recommendations. And here's our vision statement, is that the NC 43 South corridor will be responsive to suburban growth. It's already happening. We anticipate more of it. The suburban growth pressures of Greenville, and to the rural character through context-sensitive consideration of land use and transportation infrastructure. This is what we want to be sensitive both to the suburbanizing area and also the rural areas. So a number of goals here dealing with transportation, public-private investments, the node around Hollywood Crossroads, and then 4, preserving the rural character, agricultural, natural resources in the area, and discouraging sprawl. Those are our 5 major goals. And this kind of shows all that for the most part on one map. As you start at this area northward and move southward, again, going from urban, suburban, another node here, and then more into rural as you head towards Chicod. Also, here are some of the nodes. These are nodes that are actually part of the development of the 4-lane, as well as some other road improvements that may come in the future. Just as an idea, the extension of Mobley's Bridge Road that would run toward the Hollywood Crossroad area, that's actually on the county's current comprehensive transportation plan. We're in the process of updating that plan right now, and we anticipate that staying on the plan. There are a number of items in the transportation infrastructure section. Certainly one thing that we like to see along these major highways would be limiting driveways directly onto NC and US routes. Also being ready for transit. You just heard earlier, public transportation. As this area continues to urbanize, certainly there may well be a demand for public transit in that area. Sewer and drainage. We hear about it quite often. Certainly the backbone of the sewer lines are already in place in that area. All three schools in the study area, D.H. Conley, Hope Middle School, and Chicod, all are currently served by GUC sanitary sewer. So there's a framework there. And as I've mentioned, Greenville Utilities is already coming off that backbone and is providing other gravity sewer lines in the area. There will be an update to the stormwater requirements here locally in the next several months, and that's going to be a problem, an ongoing problem that we'll be combating. We need to continue to work closely with Southeastern Drainage. The Southeastern Drainage Commission has a number of laterals that are located within the study area and also receive stormwater drainage from this area. So certainly as it urbanizes, more of that runoff will be impacting their laterals. So these are our existing land use plans. As we mentioned, we felt like ours, which is on the left here, was a little outdated, wasn't responding well with some of the rezoning requests that we had. This is our final product. This is what, if adopted, we will continually come back to you with if there are particular rezoning requests, whether they're closer up around the Greenville extraterritorial jurisdiction along Highway 43, just south of Cox Crossing, where we've had a number of those non-residential uses go in, or much more rural here. And those darker green areas are to remain rural. We anticipate all the way down to Chicod, except for the little node in that area, that is to remain rural and primarily agricultural. The bigger spot that you'll see most of the development is exactly where those sewer sheds were shown earlier. Again, to orient you, right here is Hollywood Crossroads, heading down towards Hope Middle School. You can see that entire area along Mills Road, including the area that's been recently annexed, is shown as suburban residential. We really anticipate that that's going to happen. It's already beginning to happen with annexations and the sewer line extensions. So here are our main land use categories and character areas. They pretty much are what they sound like they are. In our jurisdiction, the county's jurisdiction, we'll primarily focus on the agricultural and rural residential areas, with just a small area in rural commercial, like around Chicod, and maybe a few areas that might lean themselves over to a suburban commercial. And this is what helps us make our recommendations to you. If we get those rezonings, depending on the category that you have for the future land use plan, it'll show what the appropriate zoning districts would be. So just as an example, we have some floodplain areas in that corridor. The most appropriate zoning district, and most of those floodplain areas are already in RA, rural agricultural. So that's just but one example. And with any plan, we want to make sure we're implementing it once it's approved. So the first, not surprisingly, the first task would just to be formally adopt this plan. Second would be to update any regulations to reflect this plan. And then onward from that, number 3, study and improve and coordinate stormwater facilities. Stormwater, you're going to hear a lot about that in the next few months as we're updating our stormwater regulations. And then also one of the top recommendations, and there's several others, is to coordinate items with DOT. DOT maintains all the roads in this area, all those public roads. We want to make sure with those major investments that are going in, we're being good stewards of that money. So finally, your recommendations, the working group, and we had a couple from our planning board, some from the public utilities, as well as from the city of Greenville serve on this working group, met 4 times. And at our last meeting on January 27th, they did concur with the adoption of the plan. Our planning board for Pitt County met and held a public hearing on February 17th. and also recommended adoption of the plan and to amend the future land use plan. I mentioned our older land use plan to reflect this or substitute this plan for that area. So, Madam Chair, we have two motions for you tonight, or one motion and actually two actions under that motion. One is to authorize you as the chairman to sign the resolution to adopt the 43 South Land Use Plan effective immediately and amend the official future land use plan map in our current land use plan to reflect this particular plan as it's adopted. So with that, Madam Chair, we are welcoming public comment tonight during the public hearing, but I did want to make mention, and Janis, I believe, has alluded to it, our county attorney just earlier, comments from the virtual public hearings may be submitted up to 24 hours following the hearing. So it's recommended that the board delay action on the plan until your next meeting, April 5th, just in case that there are additional comments that you would like to consider, and we can handle everything at the next meeting as you see fit. So with that, Madam Chair, that's our presentation tonight. I welcome any questions, or you may open the public hearing.
Okay, I will now open the public hearing. Mr. Manager?
Yes, Madam Chairman. We actually have 6 people signed up. One person had to leave us, Benji Forrest, who's going to submit his comments in writing. So other than that, the first person is Bill Gaston or Galaston. I think it's Gaston, if he will.
And Mr. Manager and Chair, if I may,
Yes.
just to state in the beginning, since it's a little different than public addresses to the board. When we do public hearings, Pitt County also welcomes all comments on matters of public concern, and in this case on the 43 South Land Use Plan. If each speaker would please state their name and address prior to speaking. In public hearings, they'll have up to 5 minutes to speak, and I'll keep your time for that. As James said, because the public hearing is being held virtually, additional written comments will be accepted by Kimberly Hines, clerk to the board, up to 24 hours after the meeting. Also, please note that pursuant to the board's rules and policies, that this is a time for them to listen to the comments and questions provided this evening, but it is your protocol not to respond or engage in discussion during the hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
Okay, first speaker is Bill Gaston.
Thank you. My video has been turned off, so hold on. There we go. Okay, my name is Bill Gaston. I live at 1802 Manor Court, which is in the Somerset subdivision, just off of Mills Road. And that is part of the 43 South planning. The concern that our neighbors, and in particular that I'm speaking for many of them, is that we found out after the fact that the entire rezoning and annexation of property directly attached to our neighborhood was occurring. And so you have to understand that we felt like we were not fully informed of everything. And as you can see, you know, annexations in our surrounding area has already begun by the city of Greenville. Mr. Rhodes mentioned that GUC is already acquiring easements for the sewer runs. And I might say that they might want to, they have upset many of the people that they have approached using a somewhat heavy-handed approach to getting those easements. So there are a lot of people who have been on their properties for many generations are now being told, we're going to run sewer lines across your property. And so that's not been very, very good. So the other thing, Mr. Rhodes really did address well the concerns of the people, in particular, keeping the rural atmosphere, which is the reason why we came out here to begin. So the point that I would like to also say is the property, as his map indicated, is being shown as suburban rural, residential. really, we would love to have it as rural residential because the density that they're going to be providing is going to overtax the present infrastructure very quickly. There's already plans to build nearly 500 houses right now. There's plans to re-annex other properties into the city of Greenville. And really, we're looking at the county commissioners to be a protector of the landowner rights, both the ones that have been here for generations and for us who have been here for up to 15 years in our neighborhood. So we would like to make sure that, you know, we have no, the city council has no accountability to us because we're not in the city. You are the only ones that have that. And I will let you know that, you know, we're beginning to organize mainly because we want to make sure we have all the information we need to stay on top of the development because it is moving extremely fast. And COVID was right in the middle of it. So our first discussions with the city planning board was cut in half because the next meeting was called off because of COVID. So COVID has not made it easy at all. I mean, it's very easy to ignore a little 2x2 block on your screen. Is much more difficult when the room is full of irate citizens. And so what we're asking you as county commissioners is to support us and to protect us as landowners. And we've got landowners, like I said, that have been in this area for generations. And they are not feeling very good right now. We've had meetings and I've heard those people discuss it. So I'm just asking you as our county commissioners to please protect us, be on our side, because the city of Greenville, and I want you to know, I have lived in the city of Greenville all my life. And so, except for the years that I've been out here in the county. And I will tell you this, they are all about growing and building tax base. That's what they really care about. And we need you as county commissioners to protect us from that. The urban sprawl, Mr. Rhodes, you mentioned that, and absolutely it can get out of control very quickly. And there are neighborhoods in and around Greenville where you can see that happen. So,
and that's your time.
Thank you, and good timing. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope you will protect us.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, who's next?
Next, we have Kendall Paramore.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. My name is Kendall Paramore. I'm from 3833 Ormansville Road, Ayden, North Carolina. Good evening. My name is Kendall Paramore. I'm the district manager for the Southeastern Drainage Office. As mentioned before, as you may or may not know, the Southeastern Drainage Office oversees the maintenance for the drainage districts here in Pitt County. The particular area that we're talking about at Mills Road along the Highway 43 corridor is a pivotal point because this is where the break line is just north of Hollywood's Crossroads that separates two of our main districts. That's Districts 3 and 7 and District 9. These two districts alone are extremely critical to the makeup of Pitt County. There is a combined total of 193 miles of drainage canal that are all connected in some way to the Highway 43 corridor. District 3 and 7 flows to Vanceboro and the Neuse River Basin. District 9 goes to Grimesland and the Tar River Basin. Drainage canals in Pitt County were dug in the 1930s and the 1940s for agricultural purposes only. These canals were dug only to handle a 2 to 5 year rain event. Mass development in the surrounding areas over the last several decades have caused considerable amount of more water to enter the canals at a much faster rate than what they are designed for. This has caused significant flooding to our neighbors downstream and properties right here in our own area. Under the current proposed land use plan with high density development, there is the idea of implementing stormwater controls, which we agree is a great idea. However, after observing how our canals have handled recent rainfall over the past several months, it is a strong recommendation of the Drainage Office that you begin implementing the proposed stormwater controls with normal density development. High density development is not an option. The canals simply cannot handle more water at this rate. We need all the permeable surfaces possible, not just what is comprised under a retention pond. And we are counting on you to help us. Simply put, allowing high density development would show significant negligence to our neighbors downstream and to the citizens in our own county in low-lying areas. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, next we have Colin Wiggs.
Hey, good evening. My name is Colin Wiggs, and address is 4942 NC 43 South. And by the way, Mr. Manager, I also have somebody right here beside me, my Uncle Keith Cox, who is signed up to speak as well. So just for your information there.
Sure.
But thank you guys. Thank you all for allowing us this time to speak this evening. And I'm going to echo what Mr. Gaston said and what Mr. Paramore said. I actually have the fortune to be a first-time homeowner. I've been at my current address for about 3 years, and it's funny because I'm right in the bullseye of all this because I'm currently on NC 43, and I grew up here in the Hollywood Crossroads on Mills Road. So no matter which way I turn, I'm involved in this. But you know, it's a great privilege and honor to be where I'm at. And just this past weekend, I had friends over, and they said, you are in a perfect spot because this is rural and it's a great location and we really like it out here. And they echo my thoughts. I know change is inevitable. That's the only certain thing, or one of the only certain things here in life. But I just wanted to come up here tonight and say that I really like how the current status is, like Mr. Rhodes displayed in that survey. You know, a lot of people really cherish how it currently is. And we understand that progress has to be made, but we also just want to, you know, express our opinion and let you guys know that we truly cherish how it currently is. And Mills Road with D.H. Conley, I went to D.H. Conley and I live about half a mile, or at the time I lived half a mile from it, and it could take me 30 minutes to get to school some mornings because of the traffic. And that is what it is. But like Mr. Gaston said, a new neighborhood is going to be added. And so my biggest concern is if this progress is coming, I just would like to see the infrastructure and the schools there, because as someone has mentioned earlier, the schools are at capacity, and the road here on Mills Road, where my family farm is pretty busy already. So I appreciate all of you listening tonight. I appreciate your time and just really thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Okay, next Keith Cox.
Hello, thank you for allowing me the time to speak. My name is Keith Cox. I live on 2101 Mills Road. I just wanted to go back and touch on something Mr. Rhodes spoke of earlier. This is about the sewer line that's running from Ivy Road across Mills Road over to a parcel of land that's coming across our family farm. What we were dissatisfied totally by all this is we had no prior warning, no PR on this at all. Received the offer in the mail from Greenville Utilities and kind of were forced with condemnation, condemning the land if we didn't kind of go along with their offer. And it really didn't sit well with us. This is a 5th generation farm that we live on. And I just wish we could get a little bit more support from our county commissioners on this deal. It just seems like we have no support out here with this, all this development going on. And just like, thank you for your time. And that's pretty much what I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, our last speaker will be Jake Elks.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
Jake Elks here. Thank you. And I will. There we are. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving us some time here. And I got to say, I guess as I opened earlier before the meeting actually started, that I guess I just had questions. Some of that I understand will not be answered tonight as typical protocol. But wow, am I ever late to the game on this for sure. I currently am a landowner there at 2869 Ivy Road. I currently live in Pennsylvania, and it was certainly my intention to maybe come back to Eastern North Carolina at some point. I think that may have certainly changed this evening. I'm kind of at a loss as to really what the public process was, and when I say public, I mean the landowners in the area. Mr. Rhodes had mentioned, and it seems that this plan was certainly very quick to come about, for sure. I know I was never contacted or know anything about what was going on until I received a request for an easement to go across my property, and really did some digging in it until after then. I guess one of my main questions is the purpose of this sewer extension, and why is it currently terminating there on that tax parcel 19890? What is the public use there? I mean, is it simply for development, residential development, or is there a public use? Is Mr. Zeck going to have a satellite office for his aging center there, or some other public utility or public use, or has the health department done a survey, and is there a great deal of failing septic systems in that area that we need this public sewer? I'm at a bit of a personal quandary as to why this is being ran and why we're being forced to a degree to give an easement for a public sewer utility that doesn't appear to be for a public use, I guess is really my question. But this is certainly far enough down the road now that I don't think there's any much that the residents in the area can do about it. But I do echo the sentiments of both Mr. Wiggs, Mr. Cox, and Mr. Gaskins for sure. So if you could, commissioners, help us out there, and it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, we do have one other person signed up, Jeremy Stokes.
Okay. Jeremy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Like those before me, I very much am in agreement with their concerns as a lifelong resident of Joe Stocks Road. I attended Chicod D.H. Conley. One of the main concerns that I have is I have 3 children who have gone through school in this school district. And I'm really concerned with the overcrowding in the schools. And I don't know what the plan is to address the overcrowding issues that we would have in this part of the county. For instance, I'm not sure how long it takes from inception to completion to build a school and bring it up, make it operational, and put students in it. As you know, Chicod has recently gone through a expansion, and there's also been Hope Middle School that's been added on a number of years ago, and Conley. And today, those schools are already at capacity, and bringing in all these additional homes. I'd like to hear more about the plan to address it.
Well, Mr. Stokes, at this time, as our attorney said, we will not be answering questions at this time. So we will take your questions in consideration.
Thank you.
Okay, Madam Chairman, that's the last person who signed up.
Okay, thank you. And we want to thank all of the speakers for coming to participate rather in the public hearing. And at this time, we will close the public hearing. And the 2 motions that Mr. Rhodes offered, those 2 motions will take place at our next meeting. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's the recommendation.
That's the recommendation. I believe I see some hands and I didn't see which one raised first. I'm going to start with Mr. Colson.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair. What I'd like to say is that according to the map that I've received in the packet here, it actually shows where I live that it's part of the city of Greenville. I don't live in this part of the city of Greenville. I live in ETJ. One of my biggest beefs is that the city of Greenville has been pretty clear as to what it wants to do when it comes to annexation. The ETJs were created such that the cities could plan their growth around them. And then they would go into the ETJ, they would annex that area, and then they would, the ETJ would step out a mile from wherever the annexation ended. But that's not the history of the city of Greenville. I mean, just recently, a year or so ago, they jumped out 2.95 miles and what I consider a dirty little deed in order to be able to take in a bunch of land that had yet to be developed. And they did it for one purpose, because they had 5 or 6 people that owned land, that owned a lot of land, that was contiguous to one another, and they were able then to get a few people to decide that all this acreage would be able to be taken in the city of Greenville. And the question is, how are they ever going to serve that property? How are they going to provide police? How are they going to provide for fire protection without eventually coming to the county and saying, gee, will you get the sheriff's department to sign some kind of agreement with us such that they'll cover this area? Because there's no way that they can jump out 3 miles and properly service the area that they're trying to annex. So now the area where I live, which is ETJ, and it's Cherry Oaks, we have people that are in the reserve fields already. I understand that there are people in the reserve fields where the reserve fields are already failing. But the city of Greenville doesn't want to annex us. They're going to bypass us. They're going to leapfrog over us, and they want to jump into this, the 43 plan. Now, I can see widening the road 4 lanes. But I have some real problem with the fact that back in, when it was 2009, 2010, thereabouts, a sewer line was needed to be run out to Chicago School. And everybody knew that Chicago School was in trouble if they didn't get that sewer line run. Well, did the city of Greenville and Greenville Utilities, which is really owned by the city of Greenville, did they look at the long-term use of, what's good for the county? No. They refused to do anything until the county actually paid to have that sewer line put out there. As I understand it, we to this day are still paying off that debt through the development board. I believe we got another 5 or 6 years to go. And so now is the city of Greenville going to reimburse the county for all the money that we put into that? Because that's part of the sewer expansion they're going to be using for this. And, you know, it also amazes me that we have people that are sitting on the council and the mayor of Greenville that are involved in building, and yet they don't recuse themselves when there's very obvious conflicts of interest. I mean, this whole thing is a conflict of interest as far as I'm concerned. Jumping out that 2.95 miles was a conflict of interest, and yet we don't ever challenge them on that. And I'd really like the city of Greenville to respond to that. I could go on and on and on, but quite frankly, the Greenville Utilities is not going to do anything for anybody unless it just happens to be beneficial to the city of Greenville and or Greenville Utilities and the chairman of the Greenville Utilities. So the people that have all raised their concerns here, I think that their concerns should outweigh any of us jumping on this and say, oh, this is great opportunity for us to be able to expand and grow. We'll make the road 4 lanes. But here's another problem with a 4-lane road is early on I was involved in that, and I was able to, because I was part of a regional planning organization, and to get out of my neighborhood in the future is going to be very difficult. We may actually have to go out the Bells Fork Road, go down to the end of it to Herman Garris, take a right, go over to 43, which will now be 43, 4 lanes, but we won't be able to turn left. We will have to take a right, go down to not a roundabout, but to one of these turnarounds and head back the other way. I mean, I just think that this is not well thought out. I object to the fact that they're trying to make it very difficult for us in our neighborhood to be able to get out. And I think that they are just totally ignoring the citizens that are already out there, that have moved out there for a purpose. And as far as the drainage, yeah, I mean, I can't remember who it was that was talking about that, but if the drainage can't be handled, if it goes back to the 1940s and 30s, and where are they going to put all this water? Who's going to pay for that? Is the city of Greenville going to come out there and dig new drainage culverts? Or are they going to maintain them? Answer, no. Anyway, I'll let it go at this, but no, I'm not in favor of this at all.
Thank you. Now, Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Commissioner Colson did touch on some of the concerns I have. I do know that Greenville Utilities does not care about how county commissioners feel. They reject and do not want county commissioners involved in the Greenville Utilities whatsoever. And they have made it perfectly clear when we've asked about it. And I'm with Tom. We get to pick up the tab whenever the city of Greenville want to expand. They go down the river and they ease out and pick up subdivision the way they want, and they don't pay attention to the residents. We should not, as a board of commissioners who are stewards of our tax dollars, be ignored when it comes down to development, and we got to pick up the tab. When it comes to sending sewage down the road, I remember when 11 and 13 was 4-lane, and it was 4-lane, so we couldn't even get on it. We had to still dig for sewage tanks, and we were not allowed to attach, and it wasn't built for us to attach. But it's not the case in this area. One of those slides that Mr. Rhodes had hit my face with an impact. The road ended in water crossing over the highway. I think it was, which one was it? Number 4. Who's gonna pay when the water backs up, when the residents have to move out or the water go around? Highways are not cognate, so it seems, of where the good Lord water flows. The water flow the way it wants to flow based on the energy out in the atmosphere. And the water is gonna go where it's supposed to go, and you're not gonna stop it unless you block it. And that's what happens with highway. It bothers me when you have a home and you can't be comfortable in it, and you find out that the last minute that something is going to happen to it. And Greenville Utilities is historically out of that. If you look at the board and you look up at its members and look at how they do, they pay money. Greenville Utilities pay a substantial money to the city of Greenville, yet the county does not have benefit of receiving any of that. And Tom has already pointed out that we got to pick up the tab for sewage on money that we've allocated for something. And that is not right. And to be ignored and run over like this, it sure means that the Board of County Commissioners is poor on stewardship when it comes down to Greenville Utilities. And I like to say that this board should answer every question that these residents has proposed to us today, Mr. James Rhodes. I would like very much for them to be able to tell me that they received an answer for it, because that's what we're supposed to be about. The citizen looking out for their interests and helping the quality of their life. We must look out for the children. Those schools are overrunning out there. And as long as realtors are free to build where they want to, then let the realtors pay for the utilities. Let the realtors add in for the cost, and let the realtors stand for it. I appreciate it. This is where I feel, and look like my computer is cutting me off because they don't want to hear what I have to say. I done lost everything. I don't see any of you all, and I certainly hope you hear me.
Thank you.
Anybody hear me or whatever? My computer is gone.
No, we got a good copy. We got a good copy.
I hear you.
Oh, now we back. Well, did you cut me off?
No, we heard you.
Well, I would like to see every citizen who raised the question answered. And I certainly want that drainage issue that I saw on your slide, Mr. Rhodes, addressed, where the water's gonna go. And if it's already across the highway now and they haven't even built, then what's gonna happen to the water? Pay attention to what the gentleman said when it comes down to the drainage. We have serious drainage problems on the north side of the river. And my final question, I understand from the news and all of that the city of Greenville is building a water plot. Where is that water gonna go? Because it's coming across to meet somewhere over here or whatever. And that's more blockage and more changes in the water flow. We gotta be understanding about where Lord sent his water, or where the water decides it wants to go. Because if the water is, if the road is underwater now, it's not going to get any better. I thank you, and I appreciate your concern, and I like what Tom Colson said too.
Thank you, Commissioner Perkins Williams. Now we'll hear from Commissioner White.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments, Tom and Mary. Thank you for everybody calling in. I sent you all an email over the weekend, but I'm going to go into depth, a little bit more depth about some of the concerns. We've heard a lot of concerns tonight. We've heard about traffic in the area. The roads cannot withstand the current traffic, much less a lot more traffic. All of our schools are at capacity. Chicago is right there, close to 100%. DH Conley and Hope are above 100%. We heard Mr. Paramore from the Drainage District talk about stormwater runoff issues and drainage issues that are already a problem. And as a citizen of this area, I can say they are already a problem. This is just going to make things worse. heard Mr. Cox and Mr. Gaskins speak on GUC, quote unquote, negotiating with landowners. That's not the case. They've been out there strong arming the landowners, basically telling them, you take this offer or we're condemning your land. That's not negotiations. As a chair of the voluntary ag district, I feel like I need to bring up and reiterate the fact that there are hog farms, chicken farms in this area. There's a lot of farms where row crops are grown. This means that slow moving and loud equipment is everywhere in this area. There's been a lot of legitimate concerns here tonight. The land needs to be developed under current zoning conditions. We do not need to make any higher density zoning conditions. And I appreciate you all listening to me. And again, I appreciate everybody calling in with their concerns. And I hope that we take this into consideration and make a wise decision at our next meeting.
Thank you. Commissioner Nunley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And we'll get on this more, I'm sure, next meeting, but I wanted to maybe not a counterpoint as much as feel like we're very lucky to have a planner in Mr. Rhodes that really takes a modern contemporary approach to planning in such a way that we're guiding smart growth. And I think that what we've got to understand is Pitt County is growing so quickly. And in a lot of areas, I think what we heard tonight is what happens when we don't have proactive planning. I heard that we need to have plans like this. And something that I really love about the county is that we've got really broad rural nature ways and agricultural ways. And myself and a number of my constituents along 33, and this is another area that's probably going to come under other planned growth, hopefully in the not too distant future. But if we guide and plan that growth, and I've heard that density is the enemy, but if we look at the example of regions that have grown before us, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg area, Wake County, some of the other counties that have not planned and that have kind of kept with the status quo, what ends up happening, and not that it's the intention, but if we don't direct and cordon off where this growth is going to happen and seek some density, there just won't be rural left in our county. There's no rural left in Charlotte-Mecklenburg area. There's very little left in Wake County, and we're growing leaps and bounds here in Pitt County, and we can't control growth, but what we can control and preserve are our agriculture areas, are our rural areas, and we can maintain that status if we're smart about it. So I think that the question needs to be not about whether this is a plan. We're not developers. This is a plan, and hopefully through planning, we can preserve the things that these constituents are speaking about tonight. So I think we just need to consider that, not for or against a plan necessarily, but what it means if we reject planning altogether and stay with the status quo. If we stay with the status quo, we're going to get suburban sprawl. We're going to get traffic jams. We're going to get waiting in line 30 minutes to get to DH Conway High School, because this is what got us here to begin with. And so the current plan does not meet future needs. And I applaud the efforts that our planning department is made, and hopefully through input of the constituents, we can make sure that we put forward something that we can preserve our rural character, preserve our agricultural, prime agricultural land, and also preserve an area that folks like to live in. And we can do it, but it's a false choice to think that we can keep a status quo and just allow things kind of happen ad hoc as has happened to date. So I think we need to take what our planning departments put forward and really consider that, maybe density saves rural sometimes if we're smart about it. Because if you look at areas that didn't go that route, what they've got is just massive suburban sprawl, massive traffic jams. So, and then we'll get back into it, and I'll maybe have a little bit more in the next meeting, but I just wanted to raise that point that it's not all bad here.
Okay. Well, we're just gonna have people speak one time about this, Commissioner Albright, because we're not gonna make a decision on it tonight.
Yes,
Okay.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you, and I thank Commissioner Nunley and Mr. Rhodes and his department. I agree that we need a plan here. That without plans we can get into a mess, and we see that. I grew up in Alamance, which is just now starting to begin to wrestle with countywide zoning and issues, and it's really unpleasant in much of that county. That said, I have some concerns about some of the questions being raised. And one, I wonder, Mr. Rhodes, has there been any kind of a study about what population growth would accompany these high density, this area, if we filled in the high density areas at maximum? What would happen to our population in these areas?
Well, in that area, even in the, I'll say the more dense areas, the suburban areas that are shown on the map, typically we're looking at maximum 3 to 5 dwelling units per acre. And again, that's not more so a very urbanized area, that's more suburbanized still. So there would be substantial, and we've got a graphic in our land use plan that shows depending on the number of units that go in, certainly you probably multiply by 3 people per household, but people have mentioned that, possibly 500 new houses going up in the area that's being annexed, quickly that could be between 12 to 1,500 people there. So that's just one example in that area that's already been annexed.
And that's just one of those areas.
Yes.
So how many of those areas are we talking? I mean, can we get a rough estimate? I mean, the schools seems like it would be a concern with high density out there. And we'll get to drainage in just a minute. But again, I guess sort of what I'm trying to move towards, Mr. Rhodes, is the idea that we could plan, but possibly not have as many high density areas in here. I think it was Mr. Gaston that suggested rural residential than suburban residential. So I'm getting to the question, you've answered for the suburban residential and high density. If some of those areas were rural residential, what would be the impact on that population growth?
Well, rural residential, again, you're only going to have maybe 1 to 2 dwelling units per acre. And so you would decrease, excuse me.
Yeah.
Oh, at least, yeah, half to a third, I'd say.
So what is the issue with possibly looking at a plan like this and dropping back on the surface area of high density, or excuse me, I guess I'm using high density, and I might be using my terms wrong, but I'm getting that rural residential is sort of high density. Is that what we're talking about?
Suburban residential would be our higher residential in this area. And I will tell you, Commissioner Albright, we started out exactly that way. We started out with just a node at Hollywood's Crossroads and a smaller area this near Hudson's Crossroad that has been already annexed. We felt like we knew that was going to happen. But the new map that we received from Greenville Utilities showed, and I think we would be fooling ourselves, if that area is going to be easily served by sewer, it's going to be at a denser development pattern. So that's why we changed the map just within the last couple of months or so to reflect what we'd seen, or that information that we'd received from Greenville Utilities. Because originally,
excuse me, go ahead.
Originally, we weren't sure that that whole Mills Road corridor would be easily served. And now we've seen the maps and the indication, the design's already in the works for providing sewer to that area. It will be at a higher development pattern.
So is that whether we have zoned it for that higher development pattern or not? I mean, if we adopt a plan that suggests rural residential, how do they put in higher density into that area just because they've got a sewer pipe?
The short answer is, if they receive sewer in that area, the current stance by the city council is that those areas would be annexed, and in turn, those would fall under the purview, the planning purview and jurisdiction of the city.
So it sounds like it doesn't much matter what we do.
It does matter. This particular plan, more than likely, is going to be approved by the city of Greenville. I hope they'll consider it. It reflects, really, we're late in getting this planning done because the infrastructure is well along its way. The sewer, certainly the roadway along 43 is already planned for development. So we are now almost in a reactionary mode because that infrastructure is already planned for.
So how do we address then the concerns of someone like Mr. Paramore and the residents who are already being flooded? And we're certainly looking at a greatly increased amount of impervious surface in a low-lying area. I mean, it sounds like we're stuck in a no-win situation here. Everybody's going to get screwed in this, except for GC in the city.
I think this is a great opportunity with the awareness that we now have, and certainly between the Southeastern Drainage District, Greenville Utilities, county, city, we know that stormwater is an issue. We know that new stormwater regulations are being handed down from the state. It is a great time for us to better deal with that, knowing that there's going to be development in this area.
Okay, I guess my last question here, and like someone else said, we can deal with this a little more later, but are we just then expected to build a school to accommodate whatever develops wherever this development goes? Is that the deal here, that we get, you're saying 1,500 more people? I forgot what you said, but we're clearly at capacity in some of these schools, and we're not over here. I mean, how do we encourage development in other parts of the county is what I'm trying to get at, instead of dumping it all in an area that's overstressed and people are saying they don't want this flooding, and the schools are stressed, and the budgets are stressed, and you know, how are we addressing this kind of issue?
I will tell you, our development regulations do not address that. We have not historically determined that certain areas of the counties were off limits for development. It might just be because of schools or whatever reason it might be. So we are not at that level. If that's something that the board would like to consider, and maybe that's a whole discussion with the Pitt County schools.
Yeah, I appreciate your answer, and that resolves that question for me very cleanly. And I would like to see that discussion developed. It seems a vital question to not just our educational resources, but our finances too. So thanks a lot. And I do really appreciate the effort at getting this development under control. And I think that we, as Commissioner Nunley said, we are really fortunate to have a planning department that's wrestling with these issues. And I'm very sorry to hear that some of these answers seem like they're impossible to resolve in ways that would please us all right here. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you, Commissioner Albright. Commissioner Perkins Williams, do you have a short point that you want to make? Commissioner Perkins Williams, I see your hand up.
She's muted.
I was muted, and I don't like being muted and not unmute myself when I'm called on. But I do want you to know that Highway 43 used to be the road I once took when I went to New Bern. I now take 264. And when we talk about schools, Mr. Albright, the schools are built when the school board decides that it's a heavy population. And I'm sure Ms. Ward have seen that happen, especially over there in the Wintergreen area. When the schools fill up, that's where the school is built. And if you look at 33 West, it was slated to be 4-lane years ago. And the buses back up when the buses are running, and the water flows when it rains. There isn't any planning when it comes down to population and growth. Farmlands are important for us. We eat based on crops we grow. And the traffic is heavy on 33 West as well. But unless there is high development from high level real estate that they don't have to pay for and we have to pick it up, they're the ones that get the benefit of the county dollars. So it seems to me, and not the people who have needs as well. Because 33 West is a heavy populated road. You can't pass on it, and it's a small highway. And it was slated for 4-laning, and it's not going to be done. That's what I have to say. And that wasn't brought up, but it has to do with roads and drainage and schools development. Is that right? They were all what you were all talking about, Mr. Rhodes. Wasn't that all in your presentation, but just a different area?
I think I will agree with what you said. I'm not sure though.
Thank you. Thank you, because 33 West was not slated to be 4-lane some years ago.
It was on preliminary plans, but there were some other improvements like US 64 and NC 11, and in turn, it fell off the prioritized list.
Because of 43 has been picked up and it's 4-laning, and you need it because you can't go. I don't even go down 43 if I can, but I just wanted you to know that 33 West was slated for that some time ago, and somebody changed it.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Perkins Williams. We're going to now move to items for report, and we're going to start with the tax collection report from Sam Croom.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Manager Elliott. It's good to be with y'all tonight. Tonight I bring you the February 2021 tax collection report. The Pitt County fiscal year to date, July 1, 2020 through February 28, 2021, combined collection rate for real and personal property is 97.96%. The combined rate 1 year ago was 96.59%. Pitt County Tax Administration continues to pursue all outstanding taxes using necessary remedies available through the North Carolina general statutes. It is my recommendation to approve the February tax collection report as presented.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Croom. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I second it.
It's been moved in second that we approve the 2021 tax collection report. Are you ready for the question? We're ready to vote. Madam Clerk.
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Vice Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin. I can see him saying yes, so I've recorded him as yes. Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We'll now move to the second item. And I believe that's Barnett talking about the solid waste enterprise and the EMS fund.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman and Board of Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight. You have with you our monthly financial report. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. You have your monthly financial report for the general fund, our enterprise fund, and our EMS fund. We are through 8 months of the fiscal year, which represents 66.67% of our fiscal year. In the general fund, we have collected 78% of our anticipated revenues, and we've only spent 62.6% of our budgeted expenditures. At this point in time, compared to last year, our revenues to expenditures are doing much better, primarily due to last year at this time, we had purchased the Warren Farm property. Our revenues in the general fund are performing above normal levels in lieu of the COVID-19 pandemic. In our solid waste fund, we have collected 80.7% of our anticipated revenues while only spending 55.02% of our expenditures. In our EMS fund, we have collected 86.97% of our revenues and have only spent 67.59% of our expenses. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Okay. Seeing no hands?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to move for approval of the February 2021 monthly financial report.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second that we approve the February 28, 21 financial report. We're ready to vote, Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Vice Chair Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. And we're here, Public Health Director's update on community vaccination program. Dr. Silvernail.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
I will try to be brief tonight for you all. Nice to be here with you. And it's nice to have some good news to share for a change. Let's see, that full screen. So again, take the opportunity, not for you all, but for the folks that watch this, to remind everybody to please be COVID smart. Stay home if you're sick. Stay home if you know you've been exposed to COVID-19. Wear your mask, wash or sanitize your hands frequently. Wait 6 feet or more from others, and please avoid crowds or other large gatherings. Get your shot when you're eligible. Please consider getting one of the COVID-19 vaccines. We now have 3 approved vaccines. They're all safe. They're all effective. They are all, for the most part, well tolerated with usual or typical vaccine side effects. Vaccine is available in Pitt County from the following entities: Pitt County Health Department, Vidant Health, the joint Vidant Pitt County site at the Greenville Convention Center, Walgreens, ECU Physicians, or the ECU mobile team. And we have been told that CVS is coming soon, although I have not been informed of a hard start date for CVS to receive vaccine and begin vaccinations. Want to briefly review our Pitt County numbers with you, our Pitt County COVID data, and let you know where we are. For comparison, I want to show you the numbers from last month when I presented to our County Board of Health on February 9th. We had 1,400, a little over 1,400 cases the previous 14 days. We were running just shy of 101 cases per day. Our cases per 1,000 residents in Pitt County was at 7.6. We'd accumulated in excess of 16,000 cases, representing about 8.8% of the county population. But we estimated that 14,750 of those cases, or 90.9%, were recovered. We had accumulated 72 fatalities, while at the same time our case fatality rate had fallen to an all-time low of 0.4. Our percentage of tests returning positive were at 8.4%. Our numbers today look much, much better. Our cases over the last 14 days were 349. That's just shy of 25 cases per day, down from 101 cases per day. Our active cases per 1,000 residents is now at 1.9, where we were at 7.6 last month. We have accumulated 17,883 cases, representing 9.7% of Pitt County residents as having had or having COVID-19. But of those 17,000 plus cases, we would estimate that 17,450 of those individuals have recovered, representing 97.6% of our cases as recovered. Unfortunately, since last time I presented to you, we have accumulated a fatality or more, and since last month, we've accumulated a dozen more fatalities and stand at 84 fatalities for the pandemic. Far better than I think any of us would have predicted this time last year. And our case fatality rate, I'm sorry, should have been 0.5, not 0.4. That's a typo. In the unrounded is 0.46. That would round to 0.5 for our case fatality rate. And our percentage of tests returning positive today are 4.1%, so less than half of what they were a month ago as a percentage of testing returning positive. And so the next question from you, or question I was was almost sure I would get from one of you commissioners would be, well, is that because our testing volume is down? And if you look at this, this is our testing volume on a weekly basis through the end of February. This is data that comes out of the NC COVID system every week to me. And I drew a line. The blue line represents the 6,000 test mark. And you can see from I guess it was the last week or the third week of November, we've been at or above about 6,000 cases per week in Pitt County. A very, very good number. And for much of the winter peak, we were above 8,000 cases, almost approaching 10,000 tests per week in the county. So our testing remains broadly available in the community, and a large number of tests are still being conducted in our community. So the decreases in numbers and decrease in percentage are real decreases. Wanted to remind you that we have hit our 1-year anniversary for COVID. Patient 0 was tested on March 12th, 2020. His results returned positive on March 19th. That's the day that we reported our first positive case last year. So COVID has been with us and in our community for over a year now. Vaccinations, some good news here as well. As of midnight last night, the state says that in Pitt County, we have given 32,790 first doses. That would be of both Moderna and Pfizer. 28,072 second doses, again, Moderna and Pfizer. Per the state website, 18.1% of our community is partially vaccinated. That's including Moderna and Pfizer doses. 15.5% are fully vaccinated, and that would include Moderna, Pfizer, and a limited number of Johnson & Johnson vaccines, the one-shot vaccine, which is now being given in our community. The one note I would put on this data is that this may not include vaccinations given by the federal programs, the federal long-term care program, and the pharmacy program. The state is still working to get that data into the vaccination system, the last that I was aware of, so I can't confirm that's in those numbers. Gaining on COVID-19, I really do think we're gaining on COVID-19. Right now, we have almost 10% of Pitt County residents who are known to have had COVID-19. About 15.5% of our county residents are now fully vaccinated. While there's some overlap between those who've had infection and those that have been vaccinated, those numbers seem to be relatively small. So almost 25% of Pitt County residents have immunity to COVID-19. So that's 1 in 4 folks is now immune to COVID-19. If one goes out on a limb a little bit and says, well, hey, we know that we undercount cases because we can't count every case. There are estimates that put our real number of COVID cases perhaps near 20% of our population. So in reality, we could be closer to 35.5% of folks with immunity, or about 1 in 3 folks in the county with some immunity to COVID-19 or full immunity to COVID-19. And that's good news. And that's really starting to help take a bite out of transmission. With your permission, Madam Chair, I'm going to bring up the state website here and show you how we look from an equity standpoint, if that's all right with you, Madam Chair.
Yes, yes.
Let me share my other screen, and that will, because that's been dormant, that will take a second to go live again. Of course, as soon as I click to show the demographics, maybe it didn't go. Looking at this across, these are state numbers. Across the state, almost 20% of North Carolina residents have had one vaccine. About 12.3% is fully vaccinated across the state. Our distribution of vaccine, as we look at first doses, 100% of our first doses, 93% of second doses, 67% of single doses, and across all doses, about 97% of those have been given. This is the state map. Show you Pitt County very quickly. There's the numbers that I spoke of earlier. And let me click that demographics tab again. Okay, and I apologize for these tables are new. The state has revised this view. These are a little more difficult to see. Let me pull up the Pitt County tables for you. Okay, here's the Pitt County tables. So if we look at the table, the sort of royal blue or lighter blue color to my eyes here would represent African Americans each week. The darker sort of a purplish color would be whites or Caucasians. The orange are Asian Pacific Islanders. Hispanics are not shown on that. That's shown on the next table by ethnicity. When we look at this in Pitt County, they do this as a percentage of total people vaccinated and then percentage of population. So in our vaccines, about 25% of our vaccines have gone to African Americans. The number of African Americans vaccinated represent about 36.9, almost 37% of our community. Whites are 67.6% of vaccines have gone to whites, with that representing about 60% of our community having, in the Caucasian community, having received a vaccine. If we look at this by ethnicity, we started the darker blue at the top of the bar. You see, we started out with some of these in healthcare workers and older folks. We started to creep into our Hispanic community more efficiently, where only 2.9% of our vaccines have gone to Hispanics. It now represents about 6.5% of our population as being vaccinated. And we know Hispanics in Pitt County represent somewhere between 6 and 12%. So we're still at the low end, but that's definitely improving. The last time I reported, that was about 3%. It was just under 3%. So we've come up. We are in the planning stages of an event to encourage Hispanics to come in and get vaccinated. Biden has also been working with the Hispanic community. So we're definitely making progress there. We've had more success with African Americans than we have had with the Hispanic community, but gaining in there. This age table is incredibly complex. Not sure it's real relevant to tonight's discussion. So unless you have specific questions about age, I think I'll stop for there and take any questions the commissioners may have.
Okay. Do we have any questions? I don't see any hands out, Silvernail.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you all for your
time.
attention.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right. I think the next item on our agenda is for me to talk about the board retreat. I had our clerk to take a poll of the commissioners to see what the interest of a retreat is. And before some of you came onto the board, we talked about having a retreat some time ago, and that was to bring in a facilitator to help us with it. And I feel that this would give us an opportunity to look at some initiatives or some interests that some commissioners may have, such as recreation, environment, and that kind of thing. And some of the issues or topics, rather, that I thought of, and of course I'll ask for your suggestions, were board decorum, and discuss that, the code of ethics, our rules and procedures, and then public service, what we as commissioners think public service means, and we learn how to be more effective, how to be a more effective board member, and really maybe some boards evaluate themselves. We have not done that. So do we want to do that? How do we become a more highly functioning board? And we can plan some initiatives, do some strategic planning. And as I said, some other subjects, other topics that you may be interested in. I was on a Zoom several weeks ago, and Linda Sutton, the chairwoman in Lenoir County, talked about the retreat they had. So I just think that that we could benefit from having one. And listening tonight, I hear too often that citizens say, this is the first time I'm hearing this. I don't know how we can address that, but I think a retreat will give us an opportunity to investigate that idea, how we can better serve or better get information out to our citizens. So that's just some my reason for wanting to have this retreat. A suggested location would be maybe at the Ag Center in the auditorium where we could spread out, still practice social distancing. Another place would be at Alice King Park. We could have a tent outside and do that. So these are just some of the suggestions and some of the ideas that I have that, about having a retreat. I'm not asking you to say anything tonight, but I'm just passing along some of my ideas, and if you want to reach out to me later, you can. We did talk about, I think the clerk did get some idea of when would be a good time. So we looked at that. It looks like Saturdays would be a time that would be convenient for most people. So that's just kind of where I am with it. Mr. Manager, would you like to add something to it?
I think other than possibly, we're not looking at doing this anytime in the very near future, but probably early summer, midsummer. I think it was kind of the consensus of a lot of the board members. If Madam Chair, if you were willing to go along with that.
Yes. All right, we're going to move to the manager's report.
Yes, ma'am. A few things real quick. Next meeting dates, April 5th, April 19th, 6 o'clock each night. On the Human Relations Commission, want to give the board an update regarding that. We have been taking applications for the 21 slots on that commission, 11 which are the designated slots by the board itself, and then the other 10 are the slots for the municipalities. Of the 11 slots that are designated, whether Latino, African American community, faith community, and so forth, we have 7 active applications in for those 11 slots. Of the 10 municipal slots, we have 4 in. So we're near to the point where we can bring this back and begin to get this commission formulated and get your consideration on these appointments. But I wanted to update you and let you know that we are actively working on this and are recruiting these people, their applications for your consideration.
Thank you.
The other item, the Bethel ABC store matter, where we have now completed that transaction. It's been transferred to Dr. Gary Moore's organization. That is now clear of the ABC board and Pitt County government. And we are pleased to report that process has been concluded. Next item, wanted to recognize Brian Barnett. He has achieved one of the goals I set for him, and I'm sure he set for himself personally, and that is to become a certified finance officer through the University of North Carolina at the School of Government. So this is a series of exams and tests he takes and studying, and takes a while to accomplish this, and wanted to recognize him publicly and for that certification. We try to have all of our department heads and key personnel certified to the degree they can, including myself. The other item I have, it's not on the agenda. It's an announcement by James Rhodes on behalf of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Excuse me. Talking too fast. There'll be a feasibility study on the Tar-Pamlico River Basin, as well as the Neuse River Basin. The Pitt County portion of that will be on March 30th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. This will be a virtual type meeting. If you have questions and would like to participate, if you call our planning department at 902-3250, again, 902-3250, they can share with you the information of how to participate. With that, Madam Chairwoman, that's all I have.
Well, I certainly want to congratulate Brian for his certification. So I'm sure all the other commissioners want to congratulate you also. So now I would entertain a motion to approve the consent items. Commissioner Ward?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent items, please.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Madam Clerk?
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Vice Chair Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Madam
Thank you.
Chairwoman,
Yes.
just want to recognize we do have Howard Corey on the Zoom call tonight. He's representing the 8111 Safe Digging Month, and you did pass a proclamation for that.
Okay.
I don't know if he needs to speak. I just want to recognize him that he stayed along for this part of the agenda.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we'll move to the next item for decision. Reappointment to the Pitt Transit Board. Mr.
Yes,
Manager?
ma'am. On page 75, you've got the recommended appointments. These are slots that are designated, and I will pull to that. Okay, you've got representatives of vocational rehabilitation, City of Greenville Great Bus System, East Carolina Vocational Center, in DSS being a Tonka Ward, Ryan Mayers, Christina Bell, and Michelle McCorkle.
Madam Chair, motion to approve.
Okay.
I second that motion.
It's been moved in second that we approve those persons for Pat's board. Madam Clerk, we ready to vote?
Chairwoman Floyd Huggins,
Yes.
Vice Chair Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Albright,
Yes.
Commissioner Colson,
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We'll move to the commissioners' comments, and I do want to remind commissioners we do have a closed session. So we'll start with Commissioner Colson.
No comment.
Commissioner Fitzpatrick. Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
He said no comment.
Okay. Commissioner McLaughlin.
No comment.
All right.
No comment. Thank you.
Commissioner Ward.
No, thank you.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
I have a comment. I noticed my screen thing has a pin in it. I don't know what that means. That's a new term. I do know I had my hand up at one time and I wasn't recognized. And I want to say that on last meeting, I sent an email to the chair and asked that the women, this is National Women History Month. And since the African-American people were recognized when they came to the board, I asked that the women be recognized. I thought it would be a fair thing because we had Terry Shank and Edith Warren and Beth Warren and Lauren White as the youngest female to the board, and not to mention the Black two that's on there. And I think if we're going to be a good board member, a retreat won't settle not asking what is ethically right and what treatment should be. And I think it would be nice for us to be religious of that. And usually when we ask for comments to be something to be added to the board, we asked the chair, and I have never in all my 6 years being on this board that it has been denied. So therefore, I want to know what happened with that. And yes, I am bringing it up now. A retreat won't solve when you're not following the normal standard of procedure.
Madam
That's the
Chairwoman,
way I feel.
I'll be happy to try to address that. I don't want to speak for you, but I mean, I did see that come in, but I did not interpret that to be a request for an agenda item. I thought it was just a suggestion in general. So if there's any fault to lie, that would lie with me. But we can always bring that back on the 5th if Commissioner Perkins Williams would like.
Well, I did make a comment about it, and during the meeting, and when we were correcting the history of the minutes, that it should be, and I said I thought we should have the women recognized too. Beth been the longest woman on this board for as far as I can see. I remember. I don't know, and I might not like Beth, but I think she deserves to be recognized. Thank you.
Commissioner White.
Yes, I would like to make a few comments. Thank you, Dr. Silvernail. I've heard many good things about the vaccine clinics. I do want to recognize him and his team for their hard work. I also want to recognize our PIO team, Carla and Kyle. They do a great job, and they're often underappreciated. I want to thank everybody that called in with comments and concerns about the 43 land use plan tonight. And I feel like we'll be getting some more emails tomorrow, because I've had several people send me a message and said that they had technical difficulties and couldn't log in. So we should be getting some more emails tonight and tomorrow. Thank you.
Well, did I get everybody? Commissioner Nunley, I don't believe I called you.
No comment.
Okay. Well, I will say that since Commissioner Perkins Williams mentioned Women's Month, this is Women's Month, so I would like to recognize all women serving on this board, and also the previous ones. The first ones that came on, I believe, Warren from Farmville was the first woman to serve on this board. Yes, we can recognize all women serving on this board during this month of Women's Month. So thank you all. And then we will go into closed session. Madam Attorney.
Yes, I'd ask the board to suggest that we go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3, attorney-client privilege, to consult with an attorney employed by the public body and preserve that privilege. Also under 143-318.11A1, to prevent the disclosure of confidential information as you review closed session minutes. With that, you'll just need a motion.
Yeah.
So moved.
Okay.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded. We go into closed session. Are we ready to vote, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Chairwoman Floyd Huggins.
Yes.
Vice Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Albright.
Yes.
Commissioner Colson.
Yes.
Commissioner McLaughlin.
Yes.
Commissioner Nunley.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.